we got the decking done, and we're going to be moving on to the sail panels. We'll get those put on for the door because they actually sit out here on this outer lip here. So I figured I would just do a quick little clip here to show you how I set up my sail panels to kind of know whereabouts I'm at to make sure that I'm within the rules. So we got our rules here. IMCA Sport Mod, Northern Sport Mod. So a couple things that I pay attention for is down here we have the spoiler brace that's on the side right there, 10 inches. So I go to the back of my decking, so I know this is where my spoiler brace is going to be. So I'll measure from the very back and I drop 10 inches, and then I'll write down spoiler brace, so I know this distance in here is where my spoiler brace is going to be. Another thing that we mindful here is letter Z, I believe. So we go down here, 3 inches minimum. Sorry if it doesn't focus in here. So then I go down here, and that's my 3 inches of gap that I have to have between the very back of the spoiler brace, or sorry, from the spoiler brace to the back of the sail panel. And then if we do want, here's the schematic for the sail panel. And so here we got 8 inches up and 4 inches back is our point. So then here I make a line from my gap to the point of the sail panel, can be 4 inches. And then from there I got my sail panel, and here 43 inches. If you go over here to the side, it says the max is 43, the min is 24. So then I just say, you know, I write down 43 max. So then if we scroll up here, if I hold everything tight, my sail panel will end right here, which, as you can see, last year a sail panel went in these holes here, which is basically about straight down from there. So that's if everything is tight to these dimensions here, which sometimes, you know, we may take this gap, make it a little bit longer, or we may shorten the point. You know, this is kind of, can be play around with, and your sail panel can be obviously shorter. So that's just something that we go through, and it helps me draw out my sail panels, and I'll do this on both sides of the car. And then I go over to my sheet metal and I'll just start kind of drawing it out. And then typically just kind of take a tape measure, and then I'll just kind of form it to kind of how I want the sail panel to look. And then that gives me an opportunity to kind of determine how much bow that I want. And I'll show that a little bit later. I didn't get into much depth on how I made the decking pieces. They're, for the most part, relatively square, nothing real fancy. One thing that I like to do with my decking, I guess I should talk about this. I learned this from another YouTuber that I kind of watch. So this outer decking piece, I do it on both sides actually. It's kind of hard to see. Kind of use my zippers. There's a line right here, and this is the outer pieces of my decking. Same thing on this side. The reason for that, you can kind of see here, it's overlapped on top. I know some people will keep double breaking them and sandwiching them together. One thing that this helps with is the dirt and debris falling in between the cracks and kind of splitting your cracks open. Another thing is that when you get hit in the side, it breaks these rivets. And when it breaks these rivets, it kind of saves the panel. And you can also see here too, it is kind of tricky. This is kind of more my cutter issue than anything, but it does bubble up a little bit is the only thing I don't like about it. And then also to note too, with these rivets, we use the exploders. You can see those up in there. Trying to get zoomed in here, but we use the exploders rivets. They tend to be a little bit weaker, which it can be an advantage and a disadvantage. So we put them on panels that, if they're going to come loose, we want to make sure that they pop loose really easy, not like crumple or fold up a bunch. I found it works really nice. Now on these decking pieces that kind of overlap, same way with the front here, they will pop even just under normal use, just the vibrations and stuff. So that is a little bit of downfall. You got to keep an eye on them, make sure you put them back in there. But like I said, if you get into a minor fender bender, I know we caved in the sail panel, took a hit in the sail panel area, and it popped, I think 3 of these, and kept the panel relatively straight except for out on the very edge. It didn't bend it inside here, it didn't tear anything. So it kind of makes it nice, and then also it gives you another flat edge for when, if you do wad this up really good, it sometimes just happens, you can flip it over and pound it out real easy. You got a flat edge, you don't have to worry about the broke edge or anything, or re-breaking it. You just kind of flatten the one edge, and the other side you just kind of straighten out too. So that's kind of my little tidbit on that. I'll show you guys here in a little bit how I go about kind of drawing out my sail panels. But yeah, this is just something kind of cool that, like I said, I do it, and then it helps as you start stacking your pieces on, because you'll typically have like the spoiler on, the sail panel on before you do the quarters, so you can kind of always reference this. And then the nice thing too, when you put everything on, you don't see this. This is all covered up by the quarter panel here, and then quarter panel and door up here. So just something cool I wanted to share. That's helped me a lot, especially if you're doing them custom without a pattern, or if you don't have a body panel pre-made or anything like that. If you just kind of want to make something different, it kind of helps. And I'll show you kind of how I make them vertically, so to speak, and get the bow in them. And then I also do a deal on the back that I think I'm gonna do again this year, where I kind of shrink in the edge, and it makes it kind of bow out and stay there. It kind of gives it a sturdy little bit. So just thought I would share that with you. That's my little tip so far, but we'll show you how we build them here next little clip. All right, guys, we are cutting out the sail panels, and I got the left side done, laid up here on the back of the decking. Got it kind of cut out. I still need to do a brake and some bead rolling. Probably gonna get my wife out here to help a little bit later. But you were talking about, you know, I marked this side now on the side of the decking, talking about all the dimensions that we kind of have to follow according to the rules in IMCA for a Northern Sport Mod. So basically I translated some of this down, grabbed some other dimensions. So when you're basically doing this, we got our 43 inches, 4 inches to the point, 8 inches to the point, and then basically the rest is all kind of measurements that you got to kind of take, jostle down, and it kind of just plots it out. I don't, seems to work all right for me, just because I engineer by day, so a lot of that stuff's easy to graph out and just kind of plot it out. So but if you just kind of take your time, think about what you're writing down, it's it makes it pretty simple if you just put it on paper and trying to remember it all. Sometimes I get to where I'll just like, if you still have the aluminum or the plastic on the decking, it's a giant scratch pad really, so you can write down any dimensions that you need, any notes that you need. Heck, I've even had phone numbers I've written down on them on the phone, and someone's called and said, hey, can you call this guy? I'll just write it down right on the decking, as long as I have the plastic on it. Now you do got to be careful. There's a couple panels I know that we already took the decking or the sheeting off, plastic sheeting off. So so just something to be mindful of. But so like I said, you got a lot of these dimensions that are already based off the rules, and then like what I do on the very top, I will put like a double break. So I'll do like a 3. I know this says 1 5/8, so I changed my mind to 1 3/4, but do like 3/4 fold over, and then we'll do the 1 inch on a 90. And so, and I had the old panels out. I was kind of cheating a little bit just because there was a few things I liked how they turned out last year, so I wanted to kind of take a look at how I did it. So this would be the right side panel. One of my great sponsors, Ryan Hart, down at Des Moines Auto Detail, does amazing work if you're in the Des Moines area. But this basically this fold over I was talking about. I've been doing this for the last few years and I really like it. I just keep forgetting what dimensions I use. And basically there's a shrinker tool that I made to kind of put those ripples in there. And what it does, it kind of gives it, if you kind of see that, gives it a little bit of a bow. Maybe see it from that angle. Gives it a little bit of a bow when you curl it like that. So it gives kind of the whole piece a little bit of a bow. Helps keep it looking kind of sleek and just looking nice. I know some people will just bead roll that edge. That can be done. I bead roll the front and the back just to make sure there's no sharp edges, especially like, you know, in around the cockpit, you know, where the piece goes. That's something that just be mindful of. Not everyone has a bead roller. I didn't have a bead roller up till last year. I borrowed a friend's, or went to his place and used his a couple times. So it is tough if you don't have the tools. There's ways you can get around it and kind of scrounge things up. Like I've gotten along quite a bit with just basic hand tools and playing around with different pieces. I mean, even a vice grip and some aluminum straps can do wonders if you need to kind of break over an edge. Or I've done the edge of my bench, kind of used a hammer. It can be done. It doesn't look the greatest, and nor does a lot of my stuff right now because a lot of my tools are homemade. But like my Kruger Adam always says, it's just a race car. And usually after the first night it has dents in it, dings in it. And it doesn't have to be from contact. It can be just mud, dirt, rocks, anything on the track that can bounce up will kind of make the body look beat the heck. So it isn't always, you just got to keep mindful that you're not going to a car show every week. If I know a lot of the upper teams, like the late models and stuff, they will keep fresh bodies on them if they get in a little fender bender or wrinkle panel or something like that. For me, being low budget, I can't do that. Usually my bodies last all year. A lot of my bodies, and you've seen them in some of my videos, a lot of these bodies have lasted year round, with the exception, these are all driver doors, and except for this one with the green numbering, this one is a passenger door. And the reason I don't have the driver door is because I actually had to use that driver door on this car. I had made the body a little bit too low, or didn't brace it well enough or something, but the door on the driver's side kept falling off. And finally, one of my fellow racers, who's ironically one of my sponsors, actually pointed out that he had seen it laying on the track, and he kept getting closer to it and closer to it until it wasn't there. And by the time I got it back, it was basically in the size and shape of a basketball. Although aluminum's easy to work with, when it's crinkled and wrinkled and kinked like that, there's no saving it. I did finally pound it out, but it looked like it sat in a clothes basket for, you know, months, and it was just wrinkled. And by the time I pounded out with a sledgehammer and pulled on it with vice grips and stepped on it and banged on it, it was kind of banana shaped. It wasn't no longer straight. It kind of had a bow up in it. And I actually ended up giving it to a guy that wanted to hang it in his garage as a souvenir, which is kind of cool. I don't know if he still has it or not, but other than that, like I said, bodies tend to hold up pretty good in my program. I'm sure if anyone that's raced against me is watching this, they know I'm not super aggressive by no means. With being on a low budget, I don't want to have to fix or buy new stuff all the time. I don't like to just give in, but if it comes to a position, especially towards mid or backpack, which is typically where I run, I'm not even going to brag about any fancy results that I have, or good results I had. I did have some decent ones last year, but when it comes to that, I'm not about to tear my stuff up just for a position. especially if it's towards mid or backpack. But also I just in general don't want to have to buy or fix a lot of stuff for unnecessarily over aggressive. Too many guys in our sport, especially in our class, tend to drive over their heads, and I don't ever want to be one of them. It can be a costly error, and for like me, if it's a bad enough wreck to where it's major frame damage or major component failure, or major components that get broken, it can end my season, or it can cause my season to be delayed till I'm able to get up the funds. So, but yeah, I just wanted to show you guys, kind of got off on a little tangent again. I tend to do that. I gotta quit walking around and talking. Partially I've had a few of the beers tonight that kind of make me a little bit more talkative. So one of the things that when you are drawing this little schematic out and kind of plotting it out and kind of graphing it, or more or less a plot, but like I like to get just a straight piece of like aluminum, steel, straight edge, carpenter square or something. Don't have to be very long. Sorry, my daughter was picking up some of my pieces. She gets a kick out of that and enjoys that, my 4-year-old. So, but like basically, like me, I know underneath here is going to be 1.5 inches. I know it's kind of tough to see, but like 1.5 inches under there. And then like, it's kind of hard to show one hand. Hang on a sec here. Let's see if we can get you set up here, and I'll kind of show you basically what so you got your straight edge there, and typically you want to try and do this with a flimsy tape measure, but basically, you know, you kind of get it under there how you want it, kind of give it that roughly that kind of a bow that you want, and then go to the bottom and you can kind of see where about the dimension is that you want. And I just realized I think I cut mine way too long, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But basically you just use that, and then also you can kind of note and document whereabouts you're going to want so you can kind of mark this. You know, you can kind of mark it, and since I shifted mine ahead, I don't know if we're about the gapping or anything back here. I know they don't like the gap to be right on the spoiler, so that's something. And then also when you get up here, you just basically hit the tape measure from your straight edge that you want and go to the back of your roof, and you can get the top number, and then basically you know pretty much that there may be some trimming, but basically from the top of this to the bottom of here is going to be pretty much the same from the width that you made. So this is kind of a square piece, even though it's not truly square. It kind of gives you an idea of about where you need to cut it. So then like we'll make kind of this area here square, cut out a little bit of a relief, and that's what we did. That's what we did here. We kind of cut a little bit of relief. Nice thing is you save your cutout from one side, flip it over, lay it on your other template, and you kind of make sure that it's pretty close to the same. We did that with the back piece, wherever I laid that. That's already lost, but basically I already cut the one side out, so I laid it on here, traced it. Keeps it nice for kind of filling out a little bit here. And then I tend to don't add on the 1/4 inch for bead rolling. That's a way for me, like if I go to the max, cut it, bead roll it, I'm going to lose a 1/4 inch maybe on each end at most. So then I know I'm at least always under the 43 max that we can't be over. So stuff like that is just helpful little pointers that I've had really good luck with. Sometimes you need to trim a little bit, and like I said, if you get to where, you know, the front, and you can maybe see it in here. So this distance here to here in the front, here to here in the back, and that square is a little bit different because of the rake of your roof, and that kind of depends on how much rake you run. Mine isn't much. I think you can have 6 inches from front to back. I think mine's like 4.5, I think, if I remember getting checked last year. So but yeah, so that is kind of how I do it. It's probably not the easiest or best way, but it works for me. It's worked for a couple years. I've had really good luck with it. So yeah, we've had body survive for the most part, unless we get some fender benders. And yeah, that's just a nice way to do it for me with the tools I got. So that's the main thing. It's something I can do. So we'll get back to her. So when I'm doing my sail panels, one of the things I like to do, let's play the wrong color. Oh, so I got this crimper tool. It's like a shrinker. I know Weir's sells these. I just made my own, kind of seen their idea, and I had access to be able to make something similar, so that's what it looks like. It's got 2 jaws and it's on a vice grip. And basically what it does, I think I already showed this, but you can see how that's got a nice arc to it. So you can kind of see there's little ripples in there, and that's what we're going to be doing on this one. So for the hard part, this is probably the hardest part of the deal, is sitting here, find a spot you want to measure from, and 2, I do 1.5 inches. Why? I'm not really sure. Because after you've had a few cocktails or beers, trying to measure by 1.5 inch increments is actually remarkably hard. Hard enough when you're sober, but when you've been drinking and you're slightly impaired, so basically I got to mark every 1.5 inches. And now what I'll do is I'll take these shrinker tool, just start, just line up the center portion with the mark, just put on the line, and I feel like this works differently depending if you have a double break, so 2 layers of sheet metal versus 1. I usually like to do it mostly when it's double. It's not, if I remember it, I don't think it makes as big of bow. It's obviously stronger, so it's harder to bend that material, but I believe when it's doubled up, it doesn't quite bend as far when you crinkle it. So and you can kind of tell too, like this panel laid flat on the decking, now it's already got a wobble to it. So, and then you just keep cranking down your adjustment for your tension, just keep going back through until you get the desired bow that you want. It's a relatively quick process. Just want to make sure your depth's about the same, and just use the edge of the sheet metal for a guide. It's not necessarily rocket science, it's pretty simple. I mean, even I can figure it out, so you know it's got to be pretty simple. Nice little, so we got a nice little bow in the panel, and we'll test fit it up, see how it looks. I'm not sure what it is, but when you get a whole truckload of parts, it's kind of an exciting feeling, even though it's usually fixing something or replacing something or something. But we got some parts today from Performance Bodies. It works out really nice for us because they're close by, usually about a day to get stuff, depending on when you order. So we get stuff pretty quick, but I just wanted to go through a few things I got. Just kind of explaining why I had to buy or explaining why I decided to buy. So I got a new upper and lower pulley, some belts. And one of the reasons why, this is my old pulley here, and if you look, it's really hard to see, but if you look, there's a, get it right angle, there's like a dark line there, and you can see it, it's on both sides. And what it is, that's a groove. If you run your fingernail on it, you can kind of feel it. Another thing it does is it kind of starts glazing the belts when they get a little loose. Unfortunately, this pulley and this pulley are mounted in static locations, so it's kind of hard to tighten them or tension them without putting on a new belt. Well, if you do get to a point where it slips a little bit, it'll start wearing those grooves in, and the pulleys will get kind of glazed over too. And I don't know if you can see it, they got a real shiny finish to them in there, and with that groove, they just start losing their grip. The friction's not there anymore. In a pinch, I have kind of scuffed these up, sanded these up with some Scotch-Brite sandpaper. That's not the greatest thing to do. It doesn't last real long, but it is a way you can save them. I've heard of some people that will do it like weekly. They'll just kind of Scotch-Brite them to keep them fresh. It's kind of tough to do. Like I said, they're in a bad spot, and you got to rotate the motor a couple times, and it's just something that I usually run them a year. By the time it gets to the end of the year, it starts getting a little cooler out, so you don't quite have to worry about overheating as much. So we got a new set of those, new belts. The other thing that I got is air cleaner top, air cleaner base. I got these they came from Performance, but they're actually from Hammond Motorsports. Dave Hammond, I really enjoy his videos, learn a lot. And he's got some cool tech videos that are neat to watch, and they've helped out my program a little bit, just getting some of the concepts and transferring it over. I know he does a little bit more of probably the A mods and late model type stuff, but still a lot of his principles carry over. Really enjoy his videos. The one reason we had to get a new base for sure is this is the base that I ran last year, and you can see it has kind of a formed piece to the base that actually hooks onto the carburetor, and it kind of directs air directly into the choke horn area, so to speak. So it there's no kind of wasted air, no turbulent air or anything like that. It's supposed to direct it into the carburetor. That's what I've been told. So they're worth a pretty penny. I ended up getting a used one for a decent price, but unfortunately this year the rules changed. We can't run that anymore, so we have to go to just the basic standard kind of 4-barrel base, so to speak. And then I figured while I was at, I just get a new top. This one has kind of seen some better days. I think it's been dropped and banged and bent and rock chipped and whatnot, so we decided to get a new one. We also got a new fan. I could probably run this another year, and I'll probably keep it as a spare, or sell it. It's got some value left, but they just get worn out. The tips get kind of worn down. It's almost like sandblasted with the dirt and stuff that we see, and you can feel a big difference between the painted and the, so it obviously isn't moving air as well. This one, kind of see it here, it's got a bend in it on the end. Can be straightened, and I think I might have already straightened it a little bit, but it just is something for what they run for price. It doesn't hurt. I think they're about 40 bucks, so I just got another one. These, you can get different styles of these. I've had good luck with a 4-blade. I think they're like 19 inches long. And I don't run a shroud. In our class, it's not running a shroud. I don't know if it's getting popular or not, but I see more and more guys doing it. typically you got to run a shroud with a fan, whether it be a 6-blade or a 4-blade. And basically you just need to kind of get the air sucked through the radiator to keep it cool. You know, in our class we run off pump gas, so to speak, or race gas, and sometimes it's just tough to keep them cool enough where the guys that run like alcohol and methanol, you know, they don't have to worry about overheating as much. But two, with the cars getting sucked tighter to the ground, you need the air moving through the radiator. So big 4-blade fan, they move a lot of air, and I've had really good luck with I think it's the All-Star. Some guys say you got to have the OEM GM 4-blade fan. It's got a certain pitch to it that's really good. I think they're using a diesel of some sort. I've tried 6-blade fans. Actually, I have one over there on the wall that I used to run. And there's 50 different combinations on 6-blade fan with a shroud and a special water pump and 1-to-1 pulleys and reduction pulleys or restrictors, or there's a ton of different variations, and everyone has their own way of making it work. I finally settled on 1-to-1 pulleys, 4-blade fan, no shroud, as close to the radiator as you can get. It is kind of spooky, and when I get it together I'll kind of show you guys, but the fan gets really close to the radiator. It helps suck the air through there a lot better, and even a 1/4-inch gap makes a pretty big difference. So getting it as close as you can to suck the air through for cooling is a big deal. So like I said, getting a new fan is something I don't want to horse around with cooling, having to worry about having someone there to cool your car down with a cool can. So just something that I like to take care of every year. Like I said, it's pretty inexpensive. So also I got some axle seals. These are for the inside of the axle tubes themselves. They're not actually on the hub, they're inside the axle tubes. Keeps the grease from the rear that's in the rear end, the rear end lube, from getting out to the hubs, since we just typically grease them with kind of a basic wheel bearing grease. So that's something that we do to keep the oil in there. That helps keep the gears kind of bathed in oil. Also helps keep the oil in there from diluting the grease and washing it out, especially on like the left side bearing. If it gets washed out, typically as we're making left-hand turns, all the oil will slosh to the right. So we try and keep that from washing that grease out. Plus also, when you go into the corner, if all the oil runs to the right side, then you don't have oil kind of on the gears, and then it's another way to heat it up. So there's kind of some numerous benefits to that, at least what I've been told or what I've kind of deduced from it. So yeah. Oh, and then yeah, we got I knew I walked down here, big box. This is the valence and kind of the skirting rocker kit. Rocker kit. So from MD3, but yeah, so that'll finish off the car. Hopefully pretty soon. I'm kind of getting sick tired of buying new parts, but we're getting close. So that's just kind of a quick rundown of some of the parts I got. Adam just coined the new term, Strogo Bus R Us. So yeah, so we finally got it in. We didn't videotape it, I was sleeping, forgot to put the camera on, but motor's in, the beast is in. So now we start assembling around it and finish some body. Piece of cake. Another quick little tech tip that I want to share with you guys that I've kind of learned from lacrosse that really helps. So on these push connect fittings, if you ever try and push those in like cold, or unless you don't have the actual tool, they are a bugger. You will get them like part way up the barb or down the barb, and you will have all sorts of troubles fighting them things. So a little trick that I found is either using hot water, or I found this little heat gun, and I use it for heat shrink and stuff like that. But you just heat up that hose slowly. You know, want to be careful about how you heat it up. Definitely probably don't use a flame. You don't want to melt it. You just want to warm it up. And a lot of times you will feel it getting really soft, and it's just basically getting pliable. and it doesn't take too long. Like I said, I just heat this up just a little bit, just enough so it's good and pliable, especially because unless it's 90 degrees out or 100 degrees out, these hoses are usually pretty stiff. So you get it good and warm, and then just hurry up quick, push it in, and you will push it all the way on. The other thing that I like, something that kind of dries, so I use Dawn or any sort of dish soap, just because it's not real chemically, I don't know how to say it. It's not going to break down the hose or nothing. But yeah, you give that a few seconds, it cools to the touch. That aluminum fitting will help constrict it back down, and in a matter of a couple minutes you won't be able to pull that fitting back off. Now I like to use a hose clamp just to help keep them on too, but that's just kind of my little tech tip that I'll add in here.